Maybe I'm crazy, but this feels like pretty bad news. Today we're going to look at a temporary lounge opening, some airline news, and also a pretty major change with the Platinum card in Delta. As always, timestamps are down below. Big favor, thumbs up, and share this with anyone else who might benefit, given that this is going to affect a ton of people. Another reason for that is because I've seen way too many people yell at the front desk people, and as much as this sucks for us, it's worse for them. Alright, starting off, we have the LAX Centurion Lounge opening up a temporary location. So this is a pretty small option, about a third of the size of what the actual lounge will be. Hours are also pretty bad, so it's only 6:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. The good news though is that the menu seems pretty competitive, at least for the lunch or all-day menu. So for breakfast, they have assorted pastries, overnight oats, yogurt parfait, as well as torte. For the all-day menu, which is pretty much just lunch, they have charcuterie and cheese board, spring pea salad, polenta with sausage ragu, as well as tiramisu. And if you're a hacker or someone trying to steal my identity, my favorite dessert is tiramisu. I guess that's not that much of a surprise given that I do like coffee. I really hope that they end up extending the hours because for people who have late afternoon flights and evening flights, they pretty much don't get any of this benefit. Given that LAX is a bit of a lounge desert right now, I think this is still a net positive move. Is it worth going to? I think if you're in a nearby terminal, then definitely. If you have to trek maybe 6 or 7 terminals over, then probably not. I'd probably still do it though because I've definitely ran through LAX probably at least 10 times, going from the United terminal all the way to TBIT. I know a lot of people argue about this and it's maybe a controversial topic, but I feel like Centurion lounges are still the best option domestically. If you think about it, they're in most of the major US airports that you probably go through or transit through. The only one that seems to be missing right now is Chicago for whatever reason, because maybe it's hard to get it approved. Depending on the location, the food tends to be pretty good, and also alcohol. If you are considering the Platinum card, please make sure that it actually makes sense for you. We do have a calculator on AskSebby.com that allows you to play with all of the different credits. I realize that American Express makes it sound like it's a no-brainer because it's $1,400 in credits, but make sure that you're discounting them to the ones that you actually use. So if you're like me and you don't have an Equinox membership, then mark that at $0 in value. If you are interested, we do have links on the website, AskSebby.com, and down below in the description box. Make sure the links are competitive, but otherwise, it's a huge way to support the channel. Going to some airline news, we have the merger with Spirit. So they recently did reject an offer from JetBlue, and it looks like they are going to merge with Frontier. This could get pretty interesting given that both are low-cost carriers and already have pretty big networks. Combined, they would cover over 100 destinations and over 19 countries. I'm kind of curious what ends up happening, so if they combine, do they end up increasing prices because now there is no competition? Or maybe they end up cutting some costs and things get cheaper because they make it more efficient. Personally, I'm kind of glad that JetBlue is not merging with Spirit because I feel like they are different calibers of airlines. JetBlue actually has a pretty decent business class, and that's not really the case with Spirit. Moving on, we have Qantas buying some interesting new planes. This is supposed to be for the world's longest flight from New York and London to Sydney, and it's supposed to start in 2025. The idea is that these flights are supposed to take more than 20 hours, and people generally get pretty cranky, so they ended up making a wellness zone where you can stretch and work out. To be fair, I don't think people are actually working out, probably more so stretching, doing some push-ups, and downward dog. I'm a pretty big fan though, given that you generally can't do downward dog when you're on a flight. I guess you can, but they're going to get mad at you and kind of get freaked out. Or at least that's what happened to me the one time I tried that. The first class suite also looks pretty nice. It kind of reminds me of Singapore's A380s. Moving on, I'm kind of surprised how long this took, but the man who ended up getting duct taped and doing a few things he shouldn't have done on the airline ended up getting sentenced to jail. A year ago, a guy on a Frontier flight ended up getting pretty drunk and was groping people. He also ended up punching a flight attendant, which is a pretty interesting move. The legal system has spoke though, and he's spending 60 days in jail starting on August 1st. On that note, this video is sponsored by Cometeer. Cometeer is a completely new way of making coffee. It's brewed coffee flash frozen at peak flavor in order to lock in freshness. They're shipped monthly to your door and they're from some of the best roasters in the world. I would say that coffee and I have a pretty good relationship. If you hate the bitterness of other coffee, then give Cometeer a try. For example, Mandy converted from being a heavy milk and also sugar user to someone who drinks black coffee. The cool thing with Cometeer is that it's super versatile and you can experiment. It tastes great whether it's black or with milk and whether it's hot or cold. For hot coffee, run the frozen capsule under water for a few seconds to loosen it up, pour the contents into a cup, and pour in hot water. For cold coffee, I'd defrost it or put it into the fridge overnight, and then just pour the contents into water, and maybe top off with an ice cube. Cometeer is my go-to option if I want to feel like I'm enjoying a hot cup of coffee in Copenhagen or a cafe au lait in Paris, even if I'm just at home wishing I was there. For a limited time, you can get a free fellow tumbler worth $30 when you use code SebbyGift at Cometeer.com/SebbyGift. Probably one of the fanciest tumblers I've ever used. Thank you guys and Cometeer for supporting my coffee habit. Moving on, if you're someone that wants to fly Delta, there is a pretty good stacking opportunity. So you can fly from JFK to Frankfurt in Delta One, and it's only about 39,000 miles all in after all the discounts. Or I guess not really discounts, but transfer bonuses. Your first instinct might be to jump to the Delta side because it's a Delta flight, but ironically that's not the case. You'd want to go to Virgin Atlantic. Normally on Virgin, that's 50,000 miles, and Delta, it's more like closer to 200,000, about 190K. Okay, cool, so it's 50K, how do we get to 39K? Chase is offering a 30% transfer bonus to Virgin Atlantic. In this case, you would only need to transfer 39,000 Chase points to get enough for that Virgin Atlantic booking for Delta One. Delta is a pretty solid product to me. I've flown it a few times. One thing I really like is that they seem to be actually happy. A lot of the other airlines, even if you're flying first, they're happy, but you can tell they're faking it. Delta, they're offering to take pictures for you. They're even trying to be in the pictures and stuff, which is pretty cool. There might be better products for first, but I think for business, it's pretty solid. Great way to use some Chase points if you have them. Kind of a side tangent, but Delta is going to be adding some first class lounges. So one of the biggest complaints is that United and American Airlines both have these first class versions that are a lot better, but it tends to be for international flights. And that's not the case for Delta. It's still one standard product. The new Delta One lounges are going to be targeted to people doing that as well. And it's going to be on par with something like the Polaris lounge. There's only two planned right now, one in JFK for 2023 and one in LAX for 2024. Still pretty far out, but I'm pretty excited for it. Moving to the bad news, Delta announced some pretty negative changes for Platinum card holders who want to use their lounge. In the past, I've talked about how I go to the lounge when I land to get a few cups of coffee, maybe some plates of food, because why not? If you don't have a checked bag, if you're not rushing to go anywhere, especially if you're kind of waiting out traffic, then it's a pretty good solution. It's definitely been my go-to when I fly to New York, and I know that traffic is going to be terrible. That's sadly not going to work anymore because they're pretty much changing up the game. Starting on June 1st, you're only allowed to enter Delta Sky Clubs 3 hours before your flight. You're also no longer allowed to use it when you land. Maybe I'm crazy, but this feels like a pretty huge devaluation. The only good and I guess fair part of it is that if your flight gets delayed, then you are still fine with that. It's still 3 hours based on the initial time of your flight, and if you're connecting, then there's no rules. Their official reason is crowd control, but I feel like anytime I've been to a Delta Sky Club, it's been pretty chill. If you compare it to the Centurion lounge, those have had lines. Those have generally been 15 to 1 hour waits. A bit of me wonders if people were complaining to American Express too much, and they were like, okay, cool. If you're angry that the Centurion lounge has these rules, while Delta doesn't, we can make Delta have them as well. That's the vibe I get because, again, the Delta lounges, the ones I've been to, have not been packed. American Express and Delta do work pretty closely, and I'm pretty sure there is a financial stake, so I guess I'm not that surprised that they would make it consistent. I've definitely been guilty of crapping on the Centurion lounge's hours compared to Delta. If you flip it and you compare it to United or Admiral's Club, they don't have similar rules. To be fair though, you could argue that I'm overreacting because I generally don't go to the airport 3 hours earlier anyways, and when I land, I guess I could go somewhere else for coffee. Sometimes I do feel like airlines and also credit card companies are targeting me and my behavior. Maybe I just need to make a Patreon for stuff like this and to shut up online. Again, if you want to learn about cards, links on the website AskSebby.com and down below in the description box. If you made it to this point in the video, then leave an airplane emoji down below and I'll try to heart the comment. Given that, what are your thoughts on all of this? So the temporary Centurion lounge, the Delta Sky Club thing, and all the other news pieces in between. Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Alright, so I have to head over to a poker night with some other creators, but big favor, give this a thumbs up. Hope you liked it, but otherwise, see you guys next time.